As we begin this eerie journey into the unknown, I welcome you to a place of mysteries. If you're ready for spine-tingling adventures, subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Share your thoughts below. What haunting mysteries would you like to uncover? Let's explore the shadows and unravel secrets together. Stay tuned, for more stories await in the darkness. People ask why I sleep with the lights on. Some think it's a joke. Others assume it's some kind of trauma response, but they don't press. I'm grateful for that, because when I do tell the story, if I ever let myself get close enough to someone to tell it, they never look at me the same way again, like I'm broken. Or worse, like I'm lying. Maybe both, but I know what I saw, and I know what I heard, and most terrifying of all, I know what I felt. It started on a Thursday night in March, about 2 years ago. I had just moved into a modest one-bedroom apartment in an older building on the edge of town. The rent was low, the neighbors quiet, and the brick exterior had a comforting kind of charm. I was tired of roommates, tired of shared spaces and fake friendliness. This place felt like solitude, like peace. The first 2 weeks were uneventful. I fell into a rhythm: work, home, dinner, sleep. I cooked for myself. I read in bed. I even took walks around the block at night when the streets were empty and the air smelled like rain and wood smoke. Everything felt calm. Then came the scratching. It was faint at first, just a whisper of sound at the bedroom window. I live on the second floor, so I figured it was a branch swaying in the wind, but it persisted. Night after night, a slow, rhythmic scratching, like something was trying to trace a shape into the glass. One night, I pulled the curtain aside and shined a flashlight out into the dark. There was nothing. No branch, no bird, nothing at all. Just the faint reflection of my own pale face in the glass. I told myself it was nothing. The mind plays tricks. Old buildings creak. Maybe it was a mouse in the walls, or the echo of some distant noise bouncing off the alley. For 3 nights I believed, no lie to myself, that it was just that. But I was wrong, because on the 4th night, the scratching stopped. I was relieved, but also strangely uneasy. I had grown used to it in a twisted way. Its absence felt heavier than its presence. That night, I locked all the windows and doors. I double-checked the latch on the fire escape window in the kitchen. I even propped a chair under the front door handle, just to be safe. I had a glass of wine, turned off the lights, and went to bed. At around 2:13 a.m., I woke up gasping. The sound that woke me wasn't scratching. It was breathing, not mine, someone else's. Wet and shallow, just inches from my face. I shot up and turned on the bedside lamp. No one was there. My room was empty, but the air felt wrong. Heavy. Like the moment after someone leaves a room, but their warmth still lingers. I sat awake until dawn, clutching a kitchen knife and watching the shadows crawl across the ceiling. I told myself I had been dreaming, that my imagination had gotten the better of me. That was easier than the truth. The next night, I barely slept. Every creak made my heart jump. Every gust of wind against the window felt like a hand trying to find its way in. A simple break-in, but it changed me forever. It was a Sunday. I remember that clearly because I had stayed in all day, trying to get ahead on some work. Around 9 p.m., I decided to take a shower. I left my phone on the bed, my laptop on the kitchen table, and the front door deadbolted. When I got out of the shower, the bathroom mirror was fogged, and the room was filled with the scent of steam and soap. I wiped the mirror clean and froze. There were wet footprints on the tile behind me, bare feet, too large to be mine, leading from the doorway toward the tub. I turned around slowly. No one was there, but the door, which I had closed, now hung open. I ran to the living room, my towel barely holding together. Everything looked the same, nothing missing, nothing out of place, but the feeling was back. That pressure in the air, that lingering sense of presence, of watching. I checked every inch of the apartment, under the bed, behind the curtains, in the closet. I even opened the kitchen cabinets, one by one. Nothing. I was alone. At 11:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the home security app I had installed a few days earlier, more out of paranoia than anything else. The motion detector had been triggered in the hallway, the one just outside my apartment. I opened the live feed. The image was grainy, but clear enough to make out the narrow hallway and the flickering overhead light, and in the center of the frame stood a man. He was tall, too tall. His head almost touched the ceiling. He wore a filthy hooded coat that hung in tatters around his knees. His face was pale, not white, but a kind of ashen gray, like old paper left out in the sun. He didn't move. He just stood there, staring at my door, as if waiting for something. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. I watched the feed for what felt like hours, and then, without warning, the screen went black. I jumped up and ran to the peephole. The hallway was empty. I called the police. They arrived 20 minutes later. 2 officers. They checked the hallway, the stairwell, even the roof. No sign of anyone. No forced entry. No footprints. Nothing. They told me to get some rest, that it was probably a prank or a glitch in the camera. The irony in their judgment. I didn't sleep that night, or the night after. I moved a dresser in front of the door. I kept every light in the apartment on. I stopped going to work. I barely ate. I just sat there, waiting. It happened 3 nights later. At exactly 3:12 a.m., I heard the doorknob turn, not jiggle, turn. Smooth and deliberate. The deadbolt held, but the sound still chilled my blood. I stared at the door, unable to move. My body frozen in place by some primal fear I had never known before. Then came the knock. Soft, polite, rhythmic. 3 taps. Pause. 3 more. I didn't respond. I couldn't. The knocks continued for 10 minutes. Then silence. I sat there, gripping my kitchen knife. My knuckles were white, my eyes unblinking. I was afraid that if I moved, even slightly, the thing outside would hear, would know. Eventually, I must have passed out. I woke up in the morning light, stiff and sore and filled with dread. I checked the hallway camera. No footage. The feed was corrupted. Every timestamp from midnight to 6 a.m. was blank, like nothing had happened. I called a locksmith that afternoon. Had every lock replaced. I even had the front door reinforced with a steel plate. I bought new cameras, motion sensors, an alarm system that screamed like a banshee if a leaf touched the window. And for a while, it worked. The noises stopped. The breathing disappeared. No more knocks. No more tall, pale man in the hallway. Just silence. But silence, I learned, is not the same as safety. 2 weeks later, I found a note. It was tucked under my pillow, written in dark black ink on a torn piece of parchment. 8 words. You locked the door, but I'm already inside. I moved out that same day, packed what I could fit into my car, and drove 6 hours to a different city. Found a new apartment, top floor. No fire escape. Double locks on every window. Cameras in every room. I even sleep with salt around the bed. A friend told me it helps. But the truth is, I don't think it matters. Because wherever I go, he follows. Sometimes I wake up and smell that same wet, rotten breath. Sometimes I find fingerprints on the mirror that don't belong to me. Sometimes I hear the knock. Soft, rhythmic. 3 taps. Pause. 3 more. So I keep the lights on. And I don't open the door. Not ever again.